Hello and welcome, fellow children of chaos and infidiots, to Sage's Tabletop Table Talks. I'm Sage, this is my tabletop, and I'm going to talk to you about tabletop role-playing games. The cat that always makes an appearance is over there messing with some of my wife's plants, so she's been ignoring me for the past 15 minutes while I've been setting up, so let's see if she actually decides to come and visit me. I give it about 5 more minutes before she shows up. Anyway, today we are going to do a tabletop role-playing game review, and that is Big Eyes Small Mouth 3rd edition. I've played the first and third edition of Big Eyes Small Mouth. And it's a role-playing game designed to mimic anime, but it really is specifically designed to mimic what we call anime. Generally speaking, is called shonen anime, which is like kind of like the actiony, young men beating up bad guys, the stuff you see in One Piece and Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, things like that. It kind of, there she is. It kind of has rules for doing things like I think it's shoujo. The ones that are like, very heavily focused on like romance and things like that. But weirdly, that's not what we think about in America when we talk about anime. But I mean, there she is right here. Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. I am not by any stretch of the imagination an anime historian. I kind of went through a otaku phase when I was in college, late high school, college, and a few years after. Hey, no, come on. And I'm starting to get a little bit back into it. I've been watching, because I do a lot of TV and movie watching while I'm at work, mostly just because, like, I'm sitting there doing data entry, and I'd rather have, my phone up and watching a movie or watching a TV show than just listening to the same, 12 songs over and over again. Please do not knock my camera down, sweetie. But, it is what it is. Anyway, so I've been kind of starting to watch a little more anime. But anyway, I do not have the book on me. I used the PDF to refresh my memory of a lot of this stuff, and Kodak had talked about how awful trying to read rules on a PDF are on your phone, and he is 100% right. Like, it is such a pain in the ass. It's why I am, like, the modern era of tabletop gaming, everybody wants to release their stuff on PDFs because it cuts down on overhead cost, and I get that. But at the same time, I don't want to play your game from a PDF on my phone. I cannot stand that shit. I hate it so much. It's like, oh, well, here, I'll just send you the PDF. I'm like, cool, thanks. I'm not going to play. Like, I will play your hard copy of Fatal before I play a good game exclusively from a PDF. Luckily, someone about, like, I know I'm saying that, and I talk about Danger Patrol, but at 16 pages long, you can go to a print shop and print a copy of Danger Patrol off for a couple of bucks, really. Anyway, yeah, so, but Big Eye Small Mouth is like a 300-page rule book, and it is... I am way, way, way off topic here. So Big Eye Small Mouth, utilizes what they call the tri-stat system. You have three main statistics: mind, body, spirit. If you're doing something physical, it uses your mind stat. If you're doing something mental, like, thinking, engineering, something like that, it uses your body stat. Magic and luck are magical effects, and like things like luck, karma are dictated by your soul stat. Your soul stat is also used for your two main sub-statistics, which is your health, which is body and soul, and your energy points, which you use to activate special effects, magic, things like that. And that is your mind and soul stat. From there, the game uses the point buy system, And from there, the game is mostly just purchasing skills and powers. Very, very much like something like Mutants and Masterminds. But how the game works is you'll have your mind, body, and soul stats, and it'll be anywhere from a 3 to a 11 if you're. I think you can get one of your stats up to a 12. But because the game uses 2d6, the stats go basically from 3 to 11. And you're trying to roll under your stats. So 2 is an auto success, 12 is an auto failure. And that's kind of the main crux of the game, honestly. But after that, you buy your kind of anime powers. When I've played twice. Once I played a psychic, and once I played a kind of, I played a Guyver, basically. And so, like, you know, but anyway, so like now you kind of buy power. So I bought things like I bought a heat ray, I bought a energy blast that tangled opponents, I bought a sonic blast that incapacitated opponents because I didn't want every attack to be like fatal. And I bought a once per combat super attack. So generally speaking, how your attacks work is you'll have like an attack and it'll do well. So let's say I had my heat ray. So it did, let's say, 10 points of damage. So it did 10 points of damage. And how it would work is you have an attack stat. And your attack stat is all three of your stats added together divided by 3. Your mind, body, soul added together divided by 3. So you might end up with, let's say, a 9. So you roll 2d6 and try to roll under your 9. If I succeed, my attack will do 10 damage, but I also have qualifiers to make. Let's say that 10 damage cost me 100 points. But at a qualifier, I could only use it 6 times per combat before it burned out. Well, that might bring the cost down to 90. And that's range, so that's going to bring it back up to 100. And then I don't remember, like, it might do something like it might have blowback where it also damages you. It didn't, and I don't think it's that expensive. It might probably closer to 20. Probably cost me closer to 20 points to do my heat ray. But I'd roll and do 10. But here's the problem. So, and this is honestly the big thing that makes this game system bad. Other than I'll get into it later. And now what'll happen is you have a defense stat, which is your attack stat minus 2. So my attack stat is 9. Let's say I'm fighting a clone of myself. My attack stat's 9, defense stat is 7. So I roll 2d6. If I roll under that 9, it's a hit. Now they have a chance to parry. So they roll the defense stat, 2d6, and they have to roll under the defense stat. If they roll under the defense stat, they block. It doesn't matter if the roll for my attack stat was an 8 or a 3. I cannot remember. I think there are rules for critical hits where if you roll a 2, you automatically hit unless they also roll a 12. Something like that. But it doesn't matter how good my hit is. Their defense roll is completely separated from my attack roll. I know other games do that. I know D&D effectively does that. But if you're also rolling, so D&D is a little different because my attack isn't static like it is in Big Eye Small Mouth. I add a modifier, and I check against the DC. Here, there's no modifier. I just roll to see if my technique would hit, and then they roll again, which adds an additional roll to the combat, which always sucks. It always sucks to roll defense against attack because it's just another roll in a lot of these games. Combat is already kind of slow. But anyway, yeah. So Then they roll to see if they defend. If they defend, my attack does nothing, and it doesn't matter how good I rolled. It just doesn't mean anything. And if I succeed, I do 10 damage. If I fail, I miss. And then that 10 damage, they'll have might have an armor stat, which would be like maybe a 4 armor stat. So now that attack gets 4 taken off, and it does 6 damage to their hit points. And that's honestly the most of combat. You can buy special techniques, and honestly, a lot of them suck. So I bought a special technique I called the Electrostatic Net. It was based off of Vile's little... if you played Mega Man X, Vile shoots that little energy bolt that traps Mega Man and traps X in that little lightning net. That's kind of basically what I was going for. So it was an attack that did 6 points of entanglement. Very quickly found that enemies that were kind of on par with us could just snap that 6 entanglement with ease. I don't remember the exact rule was, but like, and 6 was the max I could buy, rules as written. I think we eventually upped the limit because the attack was basically useless. And I wanted an attack that could entangle. The same with the debilitating Sonic Blast. Just almost everyone just saved against it every attack, making it basically useless because a lot of the stats and defenses went up so much faster than any signature non-damage technique you could have. I said the idea of the character was going to be that he would have like this huge array of various attacks that would be useful in various situations, and I was going to buy more up as the game went on, but it turned out that just increasing the damage of my elbow blades and my forehead laser, the heat ray, were just the only things that really mattered, because they were the only 2 things I was using in any situation because nothing else worked. Don't judge, y'all. Good girl. And that really leads into my second major issue with this game, which was the point buys. Oh, no. I did. We played a game that was One Piece themed for like 2 sessions. And once again, we very quickly realized how crappy the system was. So we were playing a pirate crew, and my one friend was playing a chef. And his theme was, he was a chef, so he had like cooking skills, but like his big thing was he was good with knives. So he, threw and fought with kitchen knives as his main source of attack. That was mostly what he did. High soul, he had a high soul stat and a high body stat, and a lot of ranks in like knife damage and things like that. And I wanted a character, and that cost him almost no points. So he started to do things like he bought like an armored vest to reduce damage, and he bought like extra movement, extra attacks, so he could attack 2-3 times, which is so useful and really, because it's like 15 points, so cheap. I wanted a character who could shrink an object. Because the big thing I wanted to do was he could shrink, including himself. If he touched an object, his devil fruit power was if he touched an object with his left hand, he could shrink it and then resize it back by touching it with his right. It wasn't like every time he touched an object, it was just he would touch an object and focus on it and shrink and grow an object. And so he did things like he had like hidden on him like great swords that looked like little toothpicks that he could boom grow up to a great sword. He had like these guns hanging off his hips that he threw on the ground. They were actually full-sized cannons, and it was a cool idea, but like to shrink things down to like a quarter of their size cost me like 150 of my 250 starting points. And then my friend, for like half that cost, did like 3 times as much damage as I could do, got to attack like 4 times a turn, and could parry just about anything thrown at him. And he wasn't even like trying to min-max, he just wanted to make a knife fighter. He wanted to make a simple, streamlined character, and because I wanted to do something with kind of a weird gimmick, the game basically just was like, nope. My friends decided what they could do. They built a character that was the king of the universe, and it cost them 20 of their however many points you wanted to build, just to see if they could do it. So, they did like the leadership, and they're like, okay, well, he obviously being the leader of he's going to get some big enemies. So basically that threw some extra points into the pool that they were using to see like, okay, well, if I'm going to build the king of the entire known universe, and I give myself these enemy assassins, then that's obviously going to be points I can put into that. But yeah, it ended up king, the absolute monarch, emperor, no 100% authority of everything in the known universe, and it cost them, I think it was, I can't remember if it was 10 or 20 points. Ronan, if you're watching this, you'll be able to probably be able to remember better than I could. And then my character that could grow and shrink himself and other things was like 200 points just to make things like a 10th their normal size. I'm almost certain it was 150 of my character's starting points, and it made it so hard because like I had so little points left over for my main statistics, which means I had so little points left over to build up my character's actual attack. He couldn't actually hit with any of his attacks. And that's a huge part of the game as well, was there were no statistical balances in this whatsoever. Using pre-generated characters with some slight modifications. The main one we played the most of, my friend played a character modeled after Steel Angel Karumi, basically like he was a robot with a human soul inside of him. That was my friend too. He just was also playing a robot with a human soul inside of him. The human soul part was kind of questionable for my actual friend. That's not an insult if anyone who knows him was part of our friend group, full well that was just a running joke. I'm not trying to be mean or throw shade or anything. He was, I'm pretty sure, a robot. Anyway, so but just by using the core rules in the book, building a pre-generated character, and then also had a couple of other characters who used very slightly modified pre-generated characters. He had an armor rating of like 30. Because the idea, which according to the rules is written, was the armor rating that a interstellar spaceship has. But he had armor rating, so every attack did 30 less damage to him. Meaning an attack had to do 31 damage in order to take a single hit point off. The next highest armored character was mine, with an armor rating of 8. Meaning that, come on, an attack that does 1 damage to our robot, let's see, 41, it did 27 damage to me. Not 27, Jesus Christ, 23 damage to me. That's what I got for second guessing my math. 23, and my character had about 25 hit points. So to do 1 damage to him out of his about 30 hit points meant that it was all but fatal to me. And it was an attack that would even cause him any threat, like at all. Like attacks, like he'd throw attacks us to do 15 damage, which was fair. It hurt. Like that was a big attack. And he was just shrugging it off. So in order to damage him, it was fatal to most of the party. And an attack that would threaten us, he would just ignore. Like he just ran out in the front lines because machine gun fire and basic sword attacks just bounced off his intergalactic hull. And once again, it kind of brings up this point of balance in the game, which there was none whatsoever. At the beginning, and I wish I had my copy. It's one of those things I think I let someone borrow, and then it also might have been put in some box somewhere during the move because I've only been here a couple months. So it might be in a box somewhere. I looked through the ones that had most of my books in them. I didn't dig every single book I owned out. I'm still kind of working through getting shelving to put them all on. And trying to waterproof basement leaks. A little tiny bit, but I don't want my books down there with all that moisture. Anyway, sorry, once again, digression. Because at the beginning of the book, there's this like tenets of role playing, and one of them is the balance issues is not a system problem; it's a player problem. And now, no, it's fucking not. Because here's the thing: he wasn't a problem player. The robot was 100% not a problem player. As a matter of fact, 2 missions in, when we realized how imbalanced it was, he happily lowered his armor rating down to I think he lowered it to, it was either a 10 or a 12. Still above mine because he wanted his character to be a tankier character. But yeah, he willingly did it without a fight. There was no like having to beg or make a big fight about it. So no, it wasn't a player issue. It was just 100% a system issue because the game was very poor about putting any kind of upper or lower limits on things. And even when they did, a lot of times it was kind of hidden in it would be like one line hidden in a paragraph. But yeah, honestly, that was just it. And I guess, and it's kind of one of those things where, I'm sitting here thinking, like, were we able to play very anime-based games with it? Yes, but I'm also thinking, could we have played very anime-themed games in something like a Mutants and Masterminds? And the answer is also yes. I think that's kind of one of the things with Big Eyes Small Mouth was at the end of the day, it was just a supers game with a lot of weeaboo language. And honestly, if you're trying to play a shonen type game, I do think there are better systems than Big Eyes Small Mouth. I think there's a 4th, maybe even a 5th edition out. Haven't played them, haven't read them, so they might have fixed this issue. I believe it's 3rd edition where they had have a rule where like you can buy spaceships, and then within that spaceship can be made of smaller spaceships, and those breakdown spaceships get you extra points. So like having a spaceship made of smaller spaceships made of smaller spaceships made of smaller spaceships means that you can almost like quintuple the amount of points you start with, and you basically just are a fleet of starships or have a fleet of starships. And it's just kind of a ridiculous rule, like a starship's all the way down. I think there is a 4th or 5th edition because I think they made that rule that you can only do that one time. Because obviously the idea of that rule is to Voltron, so you can have smaller, weaker machines that you can put together to build into like a big Megazord or a Voltron or what have you. But they didn't clarify that that each of your Voltrons can't be made of Voltrons, and each of those Voltrons can't also be Voltrons. And so, like I said, you just end up with 600 battleships that just form into one super powerful battleship. Yeah, so I do think in later editions that I've seen, they retcon that rule. I'm pretty sure there's at least a 4th edition out. like, so the edition I have is third edition, and more than anything, it was just a unbalanced mess. It was just super. The way everything worked, honestly, for the most part, you're better just dumping everything into stats and making a character who's specialized with one or two things. Which I do kind of get, but it also just very much makes for very uninteresting party. It would be like having a D&D party made of nothing but barbarians. Um, yeah, it's a powerful party. It's an easy to use party, but it's just kind of an uninteresting one. But anyway, like I said, if you want to do something kind of anime-ish, there are better systems out there to use. I would suggest Mutants and Masterminds, but I know there's a lot PBTA hacks out there that have like an anime-ish feel to them. If you are one of those weird creeps who like Powered by the Apocalypse, then yeah, I guess go ahead and get one of the anime hacks for it. Um, I mean, like, if you want your system to be boring and I'm kidding. Powered by. I mean, I'm kind of kidding. I really don't like Powered by the Apocalypse. I know a lot of you guys out there do, mostly because it means you can slap together a half-assed game without actually considering any real system or mechanics. I said it. I'm not taking it back. I think that so many PBTA games are just lazy. Um, PBTA is the modern 3.5, where it's just any weirdo hack, or I guess technically PBTA is the modern original D20 OGL, where it's just a bunch of lazy shovelware dumped onto the market with one or two pieces of gold. And much like the D20 system, the D&D third edition, that system, it's a cromulent system, but it's an uninteresting system, and because it's meant to be this kind of blanket system, it leads to it being very personalityless. Honestly, like, if you look at some of the playbooks with between like an apocalyptic system and an anime system, there's just so much similarity that I don't even know why you'd bother paying money for the anime system when you can just say that your apocalypse character is using a laser cannon or a Hadouken or a spirit gun or a Kamehameha instead of like a rocket launcher. I mean, honestly, like, yeah. I've gone on into a somewhat review of PBTA, but like, I find PBTA to be such a soulless and boring system. But if you want to play an anime game and you are willing to be bland and uninteresting, you can play one of the PBTA what do you call them? PBTA source books out there. There are systems out there that are specifically designed for certain anime IPs. I have a Fusion. The Fusion system that DBZ has is an interesting one, but once again, it gets to the point where it's like expecting you to roll 400 dice. But with modern digital dice rollers, that's actually not even a problem anymore. I still wouldn't play that system. Like I said, I would play a Western Supers game and just retheme it to be anime, because if we're being realistic, I know I'm gonna get both the comic book weirdos and the weeaboos in the comments if any of them watch this, and they're gonna fight with me, but realistically, there isn't that big of a difference between Superman and Yu Yu Hakusho. They're both superpowered individuals who go around fighting evil dudes, with the help of a ragtag bunch of buddies who, honestly, half of them I don't even know either. they're either so powerful you wonder why they're hanging out with the lame-o main character, or they're kind of underpowered and you wonder why the team is bringing this liability along. Yeah, I guess that's it. So the system, like I said, it wants to be a simulationist system and a narrativist system. It does a terrible job at being a narrativist system. It really does. I would actually say, as far as it being a simulationist system, is pretty good because it really does do a pretty good job of simulating a shonen anime. The point balance is way out there, but like while we were playing, it did feel like a shonen anime to us. Like mechanically, like the fights tended to be a little bit of a comedy of errors, but there tended to have enough diversity with any of our abilities that we felt like we were shooting like energy blasts and doing like the ninja substitution technique. After that, it's a gamist game because the game's mechanics are very front and center, very prominent. And lastly, it's a narrativist game. It might simulate anime, but the game very, very much gets your characters' personalities get very clogged down with mechanics. So yeah, it's a game. It's a simulationist game, gamist game, narrativist game. But anyway, that's everything. Maybe one day I'll get a copy of the newer editions of Big Eyes Small Mouth. We'll maybe give it a play. We have a bunch of games kind of backlog that we're trying to get through. Me and some guys I play with. Right now we're playing D&D 5th edition just because the guy I play with he really wanted to do this one module. But maybe one day I will get a group of people together to play some of these other games I would love to get to and play. But anyway, yep, so I guess I will see you guys next time.